1. About a year ago, when I was 20, I got a new job. I didn't have a car, so I had to take the bus. I had to catch 2 buses to get to my job. My second stop was a layover, so I typically had about 30 minutes before that bus left. One day I had gone into the Walmart by the bus stop to pick up some lunch for work. The bus stop was right behind a plaza that had various stores and restaurants. A heavier-set man with curly hair, probably in his mid-30s, walked out behind me. He said, "Hey, has anyone ever told you that you look like Zoe Kravitz?" I have a weird thing about being rude to people who are hitting on me because I'm terrified they'll hurt me if I'm mean to them. It does happen to women quite often. I said, thanks, and kept walking to my bus stop. He saw me walking to my bus stop and called after me, "Hey, Zoe, do you need a ride?" I was very irritated that he had called me Zoe, so I just said no and ran on to my bus. About a week after that, I ran into him again at the same Walmart. I heard, "Hey, Zoe!" and he ran up to me. I saw him closing the door of a burgundy van. It was one of those stereotypical creep vans that only had front windows. This made me super uneasy, and I turned around and kept walking. "Oh, Zoe," I heard him sing from behind me. I replied with, "My name is not Zoe." He asked me what my name was. One of the Walmart employees saw me looking uncomfortable and ran up to me and said, "Oh, hey Melissa, it's good to see you. I'm about to go on lunch now if you want to come with me. I'll go clock out really quick." At first I was confused because Melissa is also not my name. Then I realized what was going on, so I just said, "Oh yeah, of course." Once we were out of earshot, she told me they'd been having a lot of problems with that guy, doing similar things to women around the plaza. He was known for harassing women, specifically tall, skinny, light-skinned women like myself. She told me her manager was trying to get him banned from the Walmart, but had been unsuccessful. We waited for about 15 minutes, then she walked me out with a male coworker. They snuck me out the back and walked me to my bus. I didn't see him for a while, and then one day when I went to go catch my second bus, I saw his van waiting in the parking lot near the bus stop. I thought maybe this isn't him, maybe I'm just paranoid. I walked past the van and it started moving, slowly following me. "Hey, Zoe, we didn't get to talk last time. You never told me your name." I ignored him and began sprinting. He floored it and stopped his van in front of me and got out. I screamed as loud as I could to attract attention because it was broad daylight. Once I screamed, people started to look, and one person came to me and asked if I was okay. He sped off once I screamed. I went into Walmart and called my coworker to pick me up. They took me to work for the next couple of days. Then came their off day. I got off the bus and thought, well, if I go to Tim Hortons instead of Walmart, it'll be fine, right? Nope. I was ordering at the counter and I didn't see he'd seen me and gone up through the drive-thru. The way this Tim Hortons was set up, you could see right to the counter from the drive-thru window, and vice versa. I heard, "Zoe!" and my heart sank. I ran to the bathroom and hid for a few minutes and walked out. The employees told me that he seemed really pissed off when I didn't respond. I told them I'd been having issues with him for weeks. This time, once again, I was escorted to the bus stop by an employee. I looked around for his van and didn't see it, and felt safe, so I sat down on the bench. I didn't want to get the bus yet, because it was a nice day and I wanted to enjoy it. Then I heard screeching and a door slam. He got out of his van screaming, "You're going to stop ignoring me, Zoe!" I scrambled to get on the bus and he followed me onto the bus screaming at me. I started crying and saying, "I don't know you, stop following me." At this point the other passengers began standing up for me and threatening the man. He eventually got off the bus. After this I changed my work schedule so I could ride with a coworker every day. I haven't seen him since. So creepy van man who refers to me as Zoe, let's not meet again. 2. So I live in the valley of Sacramento, California, a few miles from the American River. This particular river is only a short walk from a vintage part of my town, where there are absolutely nothing but chickens and family-owned businesses. My first job was at a family-owned coffee shop when I was 16 in that little town, to give you some backstory. Now, a lot of homeless folk once flocked to the river and would often wander into my shop. I dealt with the odd bodies on and off almost every day without care. However, there was one weirdo I remember vividly enough that it still makes me sit and wonder. When I was new to the shop, it took some time to get to know regulars and remember their names. I had a lot of faces to memorize. One face in particular, for some reason, sat in my mind far above others. A stout bald man with a wide nose and thinly rimmed glasses. He wasn't quite old, but he wasn't the youngest man I'd met. He would stand outside of my store for about 10 minutes every day before coming in to stand in the back of the cafe and watch me and my other co-workers clean and make coffee. Sometimes he wouldn't order anything, but when he did, he would always get a small black coffee and a serving of potato salad. He would always ask for napkins, and he would always ask for a pen. After ordering, he would proceed to write things down on one of the napkins, leave his empty coffee cup on the table, and take his food to the door, where he would stand and watch us pick up his trash. I noticed over time that he seemed to look irritated when I wasn't the one to do so. Every time he did this, he would leave small notes in poor and rough handwriting. He would then throw away his salad outside. His notes were more personal. At first, I thought of it as nothing more than a sweet thank you. I often write small notes to servers on receipts from time to time, things like, "Wonderful day, thank you." Slowly became more queer over time. "Beautiful day. Take a break, I'm outside. You look lovely today, love your hair." My co-workers would make a gag out of the notes if they weren't thrown away before reading. Once I assume he figured out that the other girls were the ones grabbing them. He began to leave them on the end of the counter where my espresso machine was. "You make me happy, Keen," one of them read. I still don't know how he learned my name or who he asked, but I presume one of my co-workers on a day I was off. I began to get increasingly uncomfortable whenever he would stand outside and watch me work, or when he would order from my till. I would only smile and thank him as I got his coffee and salad, customer service voice and all. The next part is where it gets interesting. One week towards the end of summer, he worked his routine of window shopping before ordering, asking for napkins and a pen, and going about his letter. However, he did not ask for a pen or napkins. He proceeded to only ask for coffee. He left to the restroom. I forgot how long he was in there, since I myself took my lunch break as soon as the order was done. When I returned, I was told that someone had left their cup in the restroom, and it had been emptied and left on top of the toilet. It was filled with semen. I don't know if it was him, but the timing was too close not to assume. I did not see him after that for a while, because I traded my early starts for closing shifts. The last time I had seen him, he came in late. I presume he found this out either by stalking or asking my co-workers why I was no longer a morning maid. He asked me kindly for a cup of coffee and a potato salad, a pen and a napkin. I obliged, but I was hardly enthusiastic. The routine went normally. He drank his coffee, sat and wrote, left it on the counter without looking up, and walked out into the night. He didn't stop to watch. He didn't throw away his salad. "You're lovely every time. Thank you for the smiles. Leave the glitter to the blondes." I don't know what this means. You're a young flower amongst the sunset, Keen. After that, I never saw him come into the store or lurk outside of the window. I don't often lend out pens as much as I used to. So creepy poetry napkin guy, let's not meet. 3. I am happy to say that most people in this country go their entire lives without encountering some of the monsters that exist in this otherwise beautiful place. Unfortunately, I have not been so fortunate. Before I start, I would like to bore you with some backstory. I have been working as an IT systems administrator for a few years now, and have met many people who I occasionally moonlight as a repairwoman for. And yes, I do pay tax. Over the years, friends have told friends, and I occasionally get messages and phone calls from strangers asking for basic computer repairs for cheaper than they could otherwise find locally. For years now, I have been overly cautious of people, places, and objects that don't feel right. I have learned to always trust my gut instinct and to err on the side of caution. This story, however, is the one and only time I ignored that instinct. Around 4 years ago, I was contacted over text message by a local man. He was direct and straight to the point. The conversation was pretty basic. He asked me if I could look at his computer as he heard about me from a friend. I said yes, and he explained the issue he was having. PC had suddenly stopped booting. Occasionally he could manage to get it running, but it would operate incredibly slow and crash quickly. I told the man that I would need to inspect the PC myself. However, it sounded like a textbook hard drive failure. I asked the unknown man to call me to discuss an option, and where he could bring the PC for me to look at. His response was, "No phone calls. Where can I drop it off and when? I need things off it as soon as possible." This seemed sketchy to me at first. Most people like to talk over the phone about the issues they're having and try to sort them remotely. And at the very least, know how much it was going to cost. I eventually brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just well off, and was looking for a fast turnaround, which he knows only a hobbyist would be able to achieve in this area. I discussed a time where he could drop the PC off at my work, and asked what time he would like to drop the PC off. He did not reply. The next morning, at the door of my work, there was a PC on the ground, with a post-it note crudely marked with my name in black felt tip marker. My boss was not super impressed, as our business has quite strict security, and members of the public are not usually allowed onto the premises after hours. I was ultimately confused, however. I never got a reply from this man, and as far as I knew, he had done a runner. By now I am convinced this guy has some sort of social anxiety, a refusal to talk on the phone, and deliberately dropped the PC off without a word of warning before our business, not a client-based business, this is an office block, even opened its doors to his workers. Again, alarm bells are ringing at this stage. However, there was no reason for me to really worry. It's not as if he seemed on edge or dangerous. Not that I could really tell in the few text messages we had sent each other. I proceeded as planned, ran diagnostic tools, confirmed it was a dead drive, removed the dead drive, replaced it with a repurposed one, reinstalled the OS, and proceeded to start the recovery process. For those of you not informed of the process, here's the basic rundown. Pull the old hard drive, plug it into a working PC either directly or with a dock, create a virtual clone of the drive, and then perform a recovery using specialized software on the clone. Not the actual hard drive, as it may fail during the process. I did this with good results and managed to recover pretty much everything. I copied all his files over to his new drive, reinstalled the applications I could see he had, and sent the computer on its merry way. Later that day I sent the man a message stating that his computer was fixed, and he could come pick it up sometime during business hours. He responded a few hours later, saying that he was not going to be available until after work. Okay, I thought, that's fair enough, he's probably working too. At first, the man asked if he could meet me at my house after work the following day, which by this stage was definitely too weird. I obviously declined and insisted on meeting him at the local post office at around 6 p.m. By this stage I was kind of getting some pretty bad heebie-jeebies. I decided to have a friend come with me just in case things got weird. I have a male friend at work who was happy to come with. We arrive at the post office a little early and sit on the small park bench at the front. About 15 minutes pass and the guy finally arrives. By this stage it's getting pretty dark. Thinking back now, I am pretty sure he delayed it as much as he could. The man walks up to us slowly in a kind of predatory way, creeping forward as to make as little noise as possible, even though we knew he was there. His grey jeans stained with what looked like wet paint, wearing a dark hoodie covering his head. All we can see of his face is the protruding long grey tattered beard. The man stands in front of us while I introduce myself and my friend. The man does not react at all, instead seemingly looking me up and down for what felt like minutes. I could smell his breath from where I was standing, and his silence was only broken by the sound of his nose hairs whistling as he breathed. I eventually try and speak to him about his PC, stating that it was in fact a dead hard drive. However, before I could finish speaking, He interrupts me mid-sentence with a raspy voice, the kind of voice that makes you feel a tingle at the back of your throat. "Is that the computer?" I responded, "Yes." "Did you get everything back?" The man quickly responded in more of a statement rather than a question. "Yes, I told you in the text message." In a quick, angry voice, he then asked me, "Did you go through any of it?" "Of course not." "Are you sure?" At this point, I was getting really weirded out, and my friend could tell I felt threatened. I do not deal well with older men, and he knew it. He swiftly responded with, "Look, man, the computer's fixed and you have your data back. Do you want it or not?" I looked at my friend, then back at the man. He looked me up and down one last time, thrusted some notes into my hand, quickly grabbed the PC, and swiftly but silently walked away to the car park. We got back in the car, and I soon realized the man had paid me $400 for a simple repair. We never discussed the price, as that usually happens early in the discussion, or as a return for their computer. But usually this would only cost around $150. I was shocked and very happy. My friend was not so happy. Something was very, very off about that man. Now I am even more convinced. Did you notice how intent he was on you not going through his data? I agreed something weird was going on. Although I am not supposed to, and doing so is kind of a breach of privacy, my itch to know what he was so paranoid about was strong. The next day at work, having been bugged by my friend, I finally decided to take a look at the contents of the clone drive. I noticed pretty quickly that it was quite large, around 250 gig for what was essentially a Windows install and some basic applications, photos, and a few downloads. It can be tricky to find what is taking up so much space sometimes, but using a tool like Space Sniffer can really help. I booted the program up and quickly found a zip file hidden in his Windows folder under a very long tree of folders. Inside these folders were other empty folders. Some had empty documents in them, others were completely empty. I jumped straight to the zip file and opened it. Luckily not password protected. What I found inside makes me feel sick, even more so given what I have been through in my life. Thousands and thousands of images and videos of children, some suggestive, others more. I opened 3 or 4 photos and immediately felt lightheaded and sick. I quickly closed the zip folder, shocked. Oddly enough, it did not settle in until some time later what I had found. All I was thinking about before that was what would happen if a colleague saw those images in this building. Little did occur to me what kind of threat this man was and what now lay on my desk. I told my friend, who told me to call the police ASAP. I did, and was asked not to touch the image further, and to come to the station to make a report with my friend. They later confiscated the hard drive I had copied the clone to, and I never got it back. I was told by police a week or so later that the phone number the man used to send me text messages was a web-based application, and the phone number was fake. However, they had identified the man thanks to the metadata stored on the hard drive clone, and that the man probably did not realize a copy was made of his drive in the process of recovery. They also told me the man was being looked for. However, his last known residency was in a different state. The police believed he was staying somewhere without a lease, with a friend, or simply squatting, and had since skipped town. It's been 4 years now and I have heard nothing. I am still paranoid he is going to come to my office again or follow me home. I have surrounded my house with self-defense items just in case, and my home feels safe. However, work not so much. Like I said earlier, most people go through life without ever seeing the scum of society. I have experienced it myself 3 times now, and I am done. Never ever again, so please, creepy man with the most spine-chillingly raspy voice I have ever heard, please do not come to my workplace. You almost cost me my job. And the thought of what you might have done in the past, or what you might do in the future, haunts me to this day. Please, let's not meet again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 357. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, let's see, this goes up on Wednesday, so that'll be Boxing Day. Big Fat Quiz of the Year, that should be on Boxing Day. I look forward to watching that. and recovering from what I'm hoping is a very large and yummy meal on Christmas Day. I hope your Christmas days, whatever you may have done, were very enjoyable, and the rest of the holiday season goes nice and peacefully for you. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.